Hey there, I'm Reverend Dan, and we are the Soul Evolution Collaborative. This is Stripped Down Sunday, where we unchurch your Sunday experience. So, welcome. We are thrilled to have you here at this time for us to offer some inspiration, hopefully, some spiritual upliftment, and a new take on life in a very uniquely Soul Evolution Collaborative way. So we have stripped down our Sunday mornings to offer you a streamlined experience that hopefully fits your needs. And so we have a strong desire to bring this updated message of inspiration to the world at a time when it seems like it needs it the most. So the Soul Evolution Collaborative is dedicated to personal transformation and communal evolution. So two very quick logistics before we really dive into this inspiration. First, everything that you could want to possibly know about this community, what we believe, how to get involved, all of the things can be found at soulevolutioncollaborative.org. And we will put that link in the chat. Actually, I'll just type that link into the chat right now. soulevolutioncollaborative.org. So feel free to pop that open in another tab, poke around a little bit while we're here talking. Life-changing information is available there for you on that website, and everything you could want to know about us. And if there's not, you can always email us and ask. 2, it is communities with missions like ours that actually bring change to the world. And so we are actively creating a new earth, a new way of being, a ways of life that benefit everyone. So if you in any way are able to help continue this mission, we gratefully welcome your support. Donations can be made also at Soul Evolution Collaborative, or the link in the chat. And support doesn't necessarily just look like donations, but we're certainly glad to have those. But getting involved, whether it's jumping in and watching and participating, or whatever that looks like, we're always open to conversation about what getting involved looks like. So, all right, Strip Down Sunday, let's jump in. So this week is We is Greater Than Me. And so I want to take you on a journey for a moment here for the beginning of this part. So just imagine a man is a person. It doesn't have to be a man. It could be whoever, anybody we want. A person is taking this tour of hell. They're being, well, I don't know why. It doesn't matter why. Why is not important. But we are on this tour of hell, and this person is super surprised by what they're seeing. All of hell's inhabitants are constantly sitting at these huge tables with these giant oversized spoons in their hands. And what is in front of them is the food with the best smell you've ever smelled. It is the greatest food to have ever graced a dining table ever. And there's just this amazing aroma in the air. But everyone who's sitting there, which is everyone in hell, with these giant spoons, they're starving, not able to eat any of this. They can't actually reach in and get any of the food. Their spoons are too big. They can reach in and get the food, then they can't get the spoon to their mouth. So there is this crazy scene of people at these giant tables with all of this food and these giant oversized tools to eat the food with, and yet they can't actually get the food to their mouth. So watching hell being filled with hungry people being tortured by the fact that they're so close to this food but can't actually eat it. It's just crazy psychological, physical torture, like one might expect hell to be. And yet, this person is then brought on this tour of heaven, and it is the exact same scenario. Large tables, large spoons, everyone in heaven is sitting around these tables with the most amazing food you've ever seen and smelled, and this aroma filling the air. It's fantastic. But everyone here is well fed. Everyone here is eating, but they have the same exact table, the same exact spoons, the same exact food. The profound difference is that the people in heaven are not actually trying to feed themselves, they're feeding everyone else. And so the spoons that they have, they recognize are so large because it's not meant for them to use to feed themselves, but to feed their neighbor, to feed the person across the table from them. to feed each other. And so the souls in heaven sat across from each other, not trying to feed themselves, but feeding each other. And the difference between heaven and hell is simply that the inhabitants of each place are facing a completely different opportunity. And those in heaven recognize that they are not there for themselves. They are there because they've been serving others. And those of hell are clueless to the fact that they are, in fact, in this place because of the fact they are trying only to feed themselves. And so in Science of Mind, the principles, the philosophy that we follow and teach here at Soul Evolution Collaborative says that heaven and hell are not actual places, but states of consciousness. And how clear it is to look at this picture and recognize that that in so many ways plays out in our lives right here and right now, that the state of consciousness of hell is so prevalent in our experience around us. Doesn't mean that we're necessarily in it, but it is so prevalent around us. And the state of consciousness that is heaven is equally present and equally around us. That it literally is our mindset, not just our thoughts, but our entire way of being that creates the scenario that we are in, that creates the world around us, that looks at everything around us, filters our beliefs, our emotions, our feelings, our philosophies, our way of being, filters this through the subjective mind of the universe, the law that creates, and displays that in front of us. And so heaven and hell, being states of consciousness, are simply the outpicturing of that collective of our beliefs and thoughts and feelings and emotions and patterns and habits and personality and all of the things that go into creating who we are. And so when we look at this idea of the people with the long spoons in hell thinking this is the worst thing ever because I can't get the food to my mouth, the spoon is too big, is just one step away from, one thought away from the people in heaven with the same exact spoon and the same exact food, the same exact table, being able to feed someone else. So there is this emerging concept within the science of mind that is not only just the topic of this message today, but literally the message of the entire month for the Soul Evolution Collaborative. Everything we are doing this month is around this concept of stepping from me first into we first, from an old way of being into a new way of being, looking at what is it that the world, the universe is asking us, calling us to move forward and step into in order to create a new earth, a new way of being, really, an entire society, an entire world that operates in a new way. And so you may have heard already, you may not, that we are hosting a week-long summit, November 8th through 11th, evenings, that's Eastern time, evenings, Monday through Thursday, amazing speakers and messages about what the new world looks like. What does it look like to move forward? And so I thought that today, this topic is an amazing way to dive into a precursor to that, because all month long, we are looking at the concept of approaching the summit, metaphorically and also literally, but metaphorically, this idea of what does it look like to move toward a new world? What does it look like to embrace that idea of creating a new earth, a new way of being, and moving from me first to we first? And so this message of we is greater than me is what better way to picture that, to outpicture that, than to see this perception of the difference between state of consciousness of heaven and the state of consciousness of hell as this allegory of the spoon, because it literally is that different or that similar. The differences are so minuscule, and it all comes down to how we are thinking about the world out in front of us, how we are perceiving it, what thoughts, what beliefs, etc. do we have about the world around us. And so me versus we or me being greater than we being greater than me simply is that perspective that recognizes so many of the things in our world that we can look at that have been developed out of me thinking, that we have come to embrace and find endearing, are actually so limiting and would be so much greater. There's so much more opportunity in this idea, maybe even those same things, but from the we perspective. And things as simple as running a business. It is clear we have an economy and a structure within the corporate world that our businesses are all about me, the owner, right? I mean, look at how many corporations we have with billionaire CEOs, and how many of us look up to these billionaires because they've worked so hard. And yet it's been proven that once you make $1 billion, there's so much money, more money than you could actually possibly use as an individual. It's more money than you could possibly use your entire lifetime as an individual, unless you're using that money to help other people. And so we recognize, as the world seems to be embracing the new space race, this world of billionaires, how different would it be if we were building a world of we first, and we take people like Dolly Parton, who is not a billionaire, not because she didn't work hard enough or not because she didn't earn enough, but because all of this money that she has made, she has then put out into the world to help other people. And so she's not a billionaire because she has been in this we perspective, in this, I have this in order to help others. And so there is this shifting of thinking that is coming to the surface that honestly is rather uncomfortable, it seems, for a lot of the world around us, that we are, understandably, that we are uprooting this old way of being, because all of us have been born, we're born into a world where me first thinking has dominated literally everything that we have known. We don't need to get into how all of that has worked out, but you don't have to look far to realize that me first thinking has set the stage for our entire lives. And so to kind of break away from that, because we are in a place in history where the world, the universe, is asking us to break away from this me first idea. We quickly see where that is showing up, and in so many different ways, and how much of a challenge that can be. There is an African proverb that says, something like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I think that this speaks so clearly to science of mind, that principle is principle no matter what. The laws of the universe are the laws no matter what. And so we have the freedom of choice to use these in whatever way we want. So we get to choose me first if we want to, and utilize the laws of the universe, universal principle, from that perspective as much as we want. Or we get to use those same principles, and we don't use them any differently, but from the perspective of we first. And we create two completely different scenarios. So no matter how we use principle, we have the freedom to use universal principle no matter however we want, but we are never separate from, and this is the important piece, we are never separate from cause and effect, the consequences. We're not actually ever separate from the consequences of principle, of how we use principle. And I think we are witnessing globally, and also within New Thought teachings, how we may have been misusing so many of these principles for a very long time. Things like when we first come into a New Thought teaching, very often the things that come up for us are all of those personal things, the things that aren't working for us. And so the examples are always the new car and the parking space. You can demonstrate a new car, you can demonstrate a new parking space anywhere you go. And those things are great, but it's really easy to get stuck there, to get stopped there and not see what else is possible after that. And so I think we are currently witnessing in the world the cause and effect of decades worth of me first, right? That we are looking at all of these me first individual silos, people living in isolation together their entire lives, creating these worlds where each person is trying to get ahead, each person is trying to climb the ladder, each person is crawling over everyone else to get the thing for them. Whether it's following the American dream or lifting yourself up by your bootstraps or whatever the rugged individualized perception that we have been fed. I think inherently those things are not necessarily bad, but when we see the extreme reality of those things playing out, when we are not aware of the consequences or the cause and effect, at some point, if we were to take the current model of life and extend that out as it's going right now, if we don't change a single thing, at some point there wouldn't be anyone to buy any of the things that the billionaires are selling. And so at some point that model falls apart on itself. And so the universe is showing us early enough, maybe, the universe is showing us now the things that we can change to not get to that point. And so because the great thing about cause and effect is it's not a punishment. It's just when you do this is what happens. And so when that shows up, we get to look at that and go, oh, why did that happen? And if we're paying enough attention, we can decide, oh, this happened because we decided this, or we thought this, we had this belief, we did this. We get to change that. When we change the cause, the effect must change. And so the world around us, which has so often lived in the world of effect and not recognized cause, is very confused at all of the things that are going on. And yet, for most people within some sort of new thought teaching, for most people within science of mind, there is a clarity that has come over the last year or so that recognizes, these are all of the things. The world around us is chemicalizing, it is bubbling to the surface. All of the effects that do not work any longer, and in fact probably never did, but have gotten, I will say bad enough, have gotten to the point where they work so inefficiently and so detrimentally to so many that it is necessary to change the cause. And so again, with science of mind, so often the science of mind talks about freedom of choice, right? That we have the freedom to use the principles however we want. And yet science of mind doesn't ever say anything about how you should or should not use them. It is literally left up to us, the user, to determine how we would like to implement these universal principles. And I think what has happened is we are evolving as a human collective beyond the point of only caring about myself, the individual, and making it necessary to care again about everybody. And so there has been this tendency, I think, especially within science of mind, to teach this philosophy from a very material perspective, probably because that tends to be the first step in. For most people who have lived their entire lives recognizing the world of effect and not necessarily the world of cause, praying for a new car and then getting it is a huge thing. Praying for a parking space and then getting one right out front of the store, that is a huge thing. And so this is the bridge into this new world of causation. And I think we need to no longer stop there. And at times we haven't, because we've also continued this on into praying for a new job, a new relationship, for more money, all of these things within the realm of me, the person. And so everything has a tendency to revolve around using this teaching, these philosophies, to get the things that I want, to create the life that I want. And I think we've already gone through enough of why it is necessary at this point to move from me first to we first, that the we perspective is greater than. It doesn't eliminate the me perspective, but includes, we transcend and include this idea of me into the we. And so really the question is, if Ernest Holmes, the founder, the person who synthesized all of these ancient philosophies into what is now the science of mind, if he were alive today, what would he be writing regarding the evolution of this thought process? What would Ernest Holmes be writing today? What is the evolution of new car, new parking space, new job, new relationship, more money? What does that evolve into today that looks at the entirety of our experience? Not asking us to take responsibility for something that's not ours, but to recognize what now is our responsibility is a much greater thing than I think we have ever realized. And we do, in fact, have a responsibility to each other. And so I believe what Ernest Holmes would be writing today, or those individuals who may be tapping into the consciousness that Ernest Holmes was tapping into in his day, are writing about community, global shift, are writing about the crossroads of personal, earthly relationships and spiritual, universal relationships. How do we take this teaching that has so much been about this personal journey, changing life for me? I think we need to keep doing that. How do we intersect that then with our universal relationships, right? We have relationships that go this way between us and all of those things around us, with the world around us. How do we take that and spread that even further to include others and intersect that with our universal relationships, with that which is greater than us? And within this is this importance of spiritual community, importance of communities coming together. And I don't even know that we recognize the brilliance of this when we first came up with it, but the tagline for Soul Evolution Collaborative since our inception has been personal transformation, communal evolution. And what we realized preparing for the summit in November is that it doesn't stop there. It doesn't actually stop with communal evolution. It continues into global collaboration. And so really that's what we're talking about. We are evolving, taking personal transformation as the starting point, that we all have this path to walk, this journey to walk down of our own personal growth. And that is where we take those things that are around us. And yes, we use this teaching and these principles to create a world that works for ourself. And when we bring that into community, we recognize that we are not here alone. We are not in this universe alone. And in fact, we're not actually separate from anyone else around us. Everything that we do has a direct impact on everything around us. And so we recognize that taking this personal journey of transformation and introducing that into communal evolution, this idea when we come together collectively, recognizing we're all doing this work, it has an immediate and direct change on not only me here, this person, but the expanded version of us, the community. If one person can change everything around them immediately, directly, imagine if we all come together in community and with this same intention get to take that transformation and move that out tenfold in every direction. And then we imagine if there are many communities like this, if there's communities like this all over the world, that those communities, the impact that they can have on global collaboration. I mean, literally, it is world changing to be in this conversation, to simply start the conversation of we is greater than me. We literally get to change the world. And so here is Here is the interesting thing. I don't know that any of this is necessarily new or groundbreaking in this very moment. It hopefully lands in a way that is inspiring and uplifting and influences some shift. But here is the interesting thing, that because this is not new today, these ideas have been surfacing over the last probably 2, 4, 10 years ish, depending on where you've been at in this conversation. These things are not necessarily new, and yet we're at the cusp of how this unfolds. I think the part of this that I stumble over is recognizing that it is not possible to convince anyone else why they should care about other people without prefacing it with some sort of benefit that that individual receives by caring about other people. There's no way to convince anyone else to even have this conversation with anyone else unless they already have that recognition within them that, yes, it's important for all of us to care about each other. And so how do we engage in that conversation with people who may not see that yet, without prefacing it with, well, if you care about other people, your life becomes better. And that's true. But then the whole reason about caring for other people is so that my life gets better, and not so the world is better in general. And so it becomes this mind-boggling thing to look out at the world right now and see that it appears there is, not to intentionally other anyone, but it appears as if there are large groups of people in this world right now that do not understand why, and do not inherently understand why it is important for all of us to care about each other. And so what I've noticed, and this is not something I had noticed until very recently, is that there is this great sense of overwhelm and sometimes even fear around the idea of creating this new world, because it just seems like this massive undertaking. And how do we take on the responsibility? And if we do that, does that rip out from under us all the things that we already have? So there have been entire generations built around this idea of me first. And so moving away from that can easily feel like ripping out from underneath us that carpet, that foundation of what we have already built. And I just want to insist that that universal principles, that life itself is always moving forward to a greater expression of itself, not a less. There is no lesser expression. Life itself is always moving forward to a greater expression of itself. And so there are things, invisible powers and forces working behind the scenes in our favor in every moment. And so to begin this journey, if you are in that place of wow, this feels overwhelming, I get it. I personally get very excited by this idea of, we're going to change everything, it's going to be great. And I now realize how incredibly overwhelming that seems to a lot of people. We're not changing everything all at once. Nothing is getting ripped away. Nothing is getting taken. We are all evolving and moving forward. And so it is our job to look for those places in life that is showing us more of our good. And that is the direction we move. That is the thing to let influence our thinking, is, where is life showing me more of my good? There is not less. And so if we're looking for less, because the principles work, we have freedom of choice because they work however we want to use them, in the sense of free will lets us use the principle for our benefit or not for our benefit. If we decide to look for the ways that life is against us, we will find, you will be able to convince yourself that life is against you. If you look for the ways that life is for you, you will find that life is for you. So as you mind your experience around this shift as it happens in our world this week and onward, ask yourself, where are you stuck holding the long spoon trying to feed yourself? And where are you the gift of the spoon long enough to reach out across the table and feed somebody else? And so I can guarantee you, in those places where we are trying to feed ourselves, that if we take that and flip it around, life is always giving us the thing we need most in that moment to use that very thing as the thing that moves us forward. The places where we feel stuck, it is that very thing. It is not through avoiding that thing, but it is by walking through that place of feeling stuck that lets us move forward. That is where our personal transformation is. That is where our growth is. And so it is that thing itself in front of us that becomes, it is the long spoon. The long spoon in front of us is actually the thing when we turn it around, that becomes the gift to the world, our gift to the world. And so simply mind the experience around you, and where is it that you feel like you are stuck holding the long spoon trying to feed yourself, and where can you turn that spoon around and feel and feed other people? So often it is the thing that we think is holding us back that is the very thing that we need. That is personal transformation. That is what leads to communal evolution. And communal evolution is what leads to global collaboration. So it is the idea of we being greater than me and including me, that we use in this moment to create this new earth, to create this new way of being, to allow ourselves the space to contemplate even further why it is important to care about other people. And in this way, we are able to create a world that actually works for everyone. So thank you so much for tuning in today. And again, if you are looking to get further involved, certainly poke around on the website. There is amazing information there for you. We greatly appreciate you and your time and joining this conversation, because it's a much more fun conversation when there's other people involved. So we will be here again next week with Strip Down Sunday. And of course, Truth Be Told, Tuesday nights at 7 Eastern, The Gathering Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern, and much more on the way in the very near future. So we will see you soon.